Yeah, so that place was great, man. I mean, it really, I highly encourage you, if you're anywhere near Pattaya, quite frankly, and you're gonna come down, I would say come down to South Beach, JOMTIEN, and come to Tidal Arts Space Gallery Cafe, man. This place is just really great. I was able to thank you for watching the live stream, for those of you who did. Thank you so much, Roger McGee, for coming by. That was an honor, man. I've been seeing that guy's name and reading his comments and stuff on so many other YouTube channels as he's a moderator and a commenter and a really good guy. I'm psyched that I'm connected with him on Facebook, actually. And thank you so much for coming by. Always great to see Robbie and Kitty as well. So that's cool. So anyway, so these were the buildings that I had enormous amounts of interest in. The one in the front here being what I believe is labeled as the tallest building in Pattaya. I also think it's the tallest building in all of the CHON BURI province, which would make sense. One could argue that either Pattaya or JOMTIEN is going to have the tallest building in all of JOMTIEN anyway. Sorry, in all of CHON BURI anyway. But if you saw, actually, once we get past it, I'll give you a better look at the roof. The tallest part of the building, like many other buildings, is sometimes an antenna of some kind or some sort of sculpture or whatever. So nothing different here. It's a sculpture of some, you know, twisted metal that's quite attractive. But in my mind, I see something like that, I'm like, ooh, that should have an FM antenna on it. So I thought that fantasy might be able to come true. But anyway, yeah, so Reflection JOMTIEN. This is the big one in front. Once we get a little bit further down, I'll show you the one behind it. You'll be able to see what I'm talking about as far as the rooftop visual entertainment goes. Roger also told me about a park. He says, he says, I know you really like Lumpini Park. So you see that area there on the left? It's got sort of the triangular, you know? Anyway, we'll get further along and you'll be able to see the peak of it. But imagine that sort of thing on top of this building, which again, I believe is 700 or so meters. I will Google that data and get some degree of accuracy to it. Pattaya's best seafood restaurant. And Pattaya with one T. How efficient. None of this 2T Pattaya nonsense. Sutangrak since 1971. Wow. What do you think this road looked like when they put this restaurant in 1971? I know the beach didn't look this deep, that's for sure. Wow, good for them, man. 1971. Okay, so maybe we should try the best seafood. That's quite the claim. Anyway, so you see how it's got like that sort of swoosh, right? And it's got the salt. I thought, oh my goodness, you put a FM antenna on top of that thing, you're gonna get some serious coverage, right? But oh well, that's not happening for FM in Thailand ever. They want to go to digital, but it's an interesting transition. I would submit it's too little too late, and by the time they turn off all the analog FMs and enough people reapply and get digital broadcast licenses, meaning the next 2 to 3 years, by that time every single person that listens to music in their car is going to be doing it via their mobile device or via some streaming platform. So no one's going to need digital broadcast, no one's going to need FM broadcast, that's for sure. But this is very interesting, dude. Best seafood, yeah. Number one. Yeah, okay, I come back, I test you. Best seafood, man. All right. I'm more than willing to sacrifice some money to be able to ingest good seafood. And I will do it all in the name of media. So this part of the beach I am just totally in love with because of its depth and its surface area and the amount of sharing I don't have to do. But rooftop, oh okay, so rooftop restaurant, cafe, bar. So that's either on that physical building or probably on this building. And this building, once we get past the trees here, I tell you what, I'm gonna go on the other side of the road so I can get a little bit better view of any of these buildings. And we'll check it out. And apparently this is the longest rooftop happy hour. I love these extremes that all of these restaurants, I mean, the best seafood, the longest rooftop happy hour. Does that mean it's been going on for the longest time, or does that mean that they start at 4:59 instead of 5 p.m. and they go to 8:01 p.m. instead of 7:59? But apparently that's where it is, up there at the Cafe Bar by Salt. All right, let's cruise across the street because I am definitely not getting enough sun from this giant nuclear reactor up there. That's gonna help my lens. But yeah, so where that character is up there, I don't believe it's a U. I believe it is a Thai character of some kind, and I don't know which one it is, but nonetheless, apparently from up there, you'll be able to experience the longest happy hour ever invented, ever experienced, the all-new world-famous longest happy hour. That's a neat experience right there, the Rodina. If you're familiar with the A1 hotel in Pattaya on the beach. I believe it's Soi 3, maybe Soi 4. Looks like the bow of a boat that they have there too. So it'll be interesting to actually come back here. This is sort of what Robbie had reported. He reported that on the side of the beach, Mike, oh my God, there's so much food. And obviously those ladies setting up there are just one of many people that will be selling food on the beach. And oh Jesus, you know what I just realized? I don't have my mask on. Stand by. I need to put my mask on. Okay, now I'm legal. So the standard Thai food. Oh, but you have Cafe Boran. I love Cafe Boran. Shop Mark Cafe Boran. But I've had a fine ingest amount of caffeine. I don't need to increase that volume. More Cafe Boran. Chai Kap. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. Cafe Boran. I'm sure Dana and or Jib can correct me, as their pronunciation of Thai is quite good. As is Kitty's. And it's funny, you know, I sit there and I listen to and I observe Kitty, Robbie's girlfriend, trying to understand what we're saying. And I'm pretty sure that if you don't speak English, listening to me is next to impossible, because I use way more vocabulary words I would submit than the average person. I use too many words to describe what I'm getting ready to describe. And I speak very quickly. So I have a feeling that it's difficult to understand me if you don't know English. But yet, I swear, every single day she understands a little bit more of what I'm saying, a little bit more of what Robbie's saying. I need a cool and refreshing beverage. And luckily, there's Family Mart. I'm gonna go get a drink, nice cold drink in 3, 2, 1. I got myself some, you see it here? I want to make sure I pronounce it correctly. I got myself some yan. Ooh, that sun. Yes. I tell you what, it's moments like this, when it's this hot and there's this much sun, I frequently reflect on Elon Musk and his statement about, look dude, we get enough energy from that thing to power the entire world like 100 times over every day, right? And yet we burn coal. We were actually just having that conversation, you know, because what do guys talk about when they get together, right? They talk about the work that they do, but now that we're retired, what was the work that you used to do? And one of the guys worked at coal-fired power plants, which I questioned them, and it turns out I was correct that the majority of the power that we use in the United States comes from coal-fired steam turbine plants. Not turbine, turbine. So yeah, so I guess this is the experience that Robbie was talking about. Oh, I'm so coming back here when I'm hungry. Sawadee krap. Very nice, gentlemen. Yeah, there is no shortage of food, and there is no shortage of good food in Pattaya. in JOMTIEN, and quite frankly in Thailand. Anyway, so we were talking about coal-fired new power plant. And anyway, so that combined with this pummeling of photons that I'm having right now, that I'm enjoying right now, provided that I have enough Coke Zero or Coke Light, my shop Coke Light. Oh my God. So yeah, it's funny, if you've ever taken a plane across the United States, for example, because I would imagine that there's a higher likelihood of those watching this video that have flown, that are from and therefore have flown across the United States during the day, on a very clear day, and you can look down and you can see acre after acre after acre after mile after 10 miles of flat land that experiences north of 300 sunny days a year, kind of thing. And now see, okay, I know, shiny red ball syndrome, but again, this is interesting, so we're gonna stop and talk about it. So there is basically what is a bike frame, a motorbike frame, that has been basically a very small piece of it, but nonetheless has been welded onto a internal combustion engine of, I'm gonna go with about, I'm gonna say about 15, maybe 20 horsepower. That is then geared up and then geared up again. Look, it's moving. To allow for the pulling of rope that these fishermen obviously use on a regular basis. I'm assuming to get their boats up here. I assume that's what they use that for. I've never seen that before. And you? Not me. First time. Okay, so all of the open land, just in America, let's say, where you could install photovoltaics and generate electricity from that. And of course, the first response for certainly anyone whose family mines coal is, yes, Mike, but what about at night? And it's a fair question. And of course, the immediate response for most people would be, well, we'll just have batteries, and all the electricity that we create during the day, yes, we'll use it as it's coming in, but then of course, for the sake of argument, 1/2 of that we will put in batteries to solve our electrical needs for the remaining 12 hours of the day when there's darkness. Okay, well, batteries aren't free, I get that, and one would argue you'd probably want to use lithium, and because of the electric car explosion in popularity, lithium, we're gonna go the other way. I'm gonna drink with my left hand, and I'm going to go pro with my right hand, so that there is beach behind me and not beach road. There's other ways you can store electricity, of course, other than a battery. There are, oh God, I just forgot what it was called. I actually had one that sat between the generator and my FM transmitter. And it was buried in the ground. It was actually like a toroid, right? So it was basically this constantly spinning mass of energy, such that, you can't stop it immediately, right? In other words, it's got enough density to it. It's made of a material that is then effectively constantly spinning and generating electricity itself. And it was basically the shape of a giant donut. And inside of it was this spinning mass. And then, of course, it was spinning inside of a coil, which is, an electric motor / generator. You put power in, you get an electric motor, and you take power out, and it's basically a generator. And I can't for the life of me remember what that was called. Regardless, I had one. And that allowed me to basically have the effect of having batteries such that when the power went out, between the time that the shore power or the utility power went out and my generators came on to power my transmitter, then there was a buffer. And again, a lot of people would use, you know, just a giant container of batteries, or what many people would probably naturally resort to, which is a UPS. Anyway, you can have a UPS, meaning you can have an uninterruptible power supply between your generation of power and your next piece of it. And so if we were all doing photovoltaics, then you could say, well, you know, at night there's a possibility of where we put these solar cells in that there might be some wind, so maybe we'll use wind turbines and we'll use those to supplement the power that we don't get from solar cells in darkness. And that's another possibility. But at the end of the day, you could also be like, okay, so like, so Roger was telling us that every single day they burned through 110 rail cars full of coal to power 550 a 550 kilowatt hour is that right? Sorry, 5 kilowatts. Yeah, sure, Mike. 550 megawatt power plant. So that's a lot of coal, right? Well, I mean, again, he stopped working there, you know, 13 years ago, 14 years ago. And in that time, they've absolutely still had 110 train cars of coal show up, so. But the key, right, would be, okay, so instead of all this coal mining, we start putting these photovoltaic panels in, and we simply just decrease our use of coal. And that's not a bad trajectory, so why not, right? But that's pretty cool, right? So I'm like walking on the beach, and there are these, you know, these high rises and these like super modern, you know, buildings and all of this, and there's this 5G Wi-Fi, and then there's a crowing rooster. Perfect. I love it. It's the perfect combo, really. I'm actually quite surprised that I have not run into a trash barrel that I would like to use for my can. Because my experience with Thailand, in contrast to the Philippines, is that not only do they clean up trash regularly in this country, but they also have disposable containers for it, which they then gather up in the evening with giant trash trucks filled with about anywhere from 3 to 7 young men who dumped all the trash in. Sometimes they'll stop and they'll even pull out the returnables, recyclables, and then fill the trash up, or then fill the truck up with, you know, what is basically trash, disposable trash. I do see a trash barrel up there, so we will be walking across the road to make use of that. I know this sounds silly, but one of the videos I've always wanted to make is going from one 7-Eleven to the next and not passing a 7-Eleven without stopping at it and just buying something. Because I would submit to you that if I do that, by the end of a day, I would easily be 4 to 5 kilos heavier. If I were to stop at every single 7-Eleven that provided me the opportunity to buy food or drink, I would definitely gain weight if I just kept walking. Oh, so this is 1669. So this is a restaurant that Robbie has done a food review of, as well as a experience review and a video of. So I will link to his video somewhere here. I don't know if it'll be in the actual video or maybe down below in the description, but I will do my best to remember to do that. But yeah, if you consider where I've been, this is the first 7-Eleven I've run into. The first convenience store was a Family Mart, and now I'm at 7-Eleven. But now that I've thrown away my container, I think it's safe to say that I'm probably gonna have a more enjoyable walk if I do it A, closer to the beach, but B, underneath some possible natural shade from these trees. So here's what I love doing. I love doing live streams and I love making these videos, but I don't particularly like to, I'm not gonna say waste, but I don't particularly like to have to spend time indoors on my laptop, editing it all back together. And then, you know, I don't spend a lot of time doing keyword search because I like to think that I'm pretty much at my maximum level of friends on YouTube. The people that are subscribed to me are the ones that will be, hopefully, for a while. And you know, I don't necessarily need new ones, but to be fair, I will say that I do like meeting new people. And meeting Roger today was actually a great example for that. I do need to, well, I do need to thank Roger McGee for stopping by and saying hello and staying there for a while and entertaining me with his personality and thoughtfulness. But I also want to thank Jeremy from the YouTube channel Do More Life, which I'll also link to in the bottom. It's not like he needs subs. He's got 10x the subs that I do. But because of his channel and because of his regular live streams, I believe he is the person and the reason that I know Roger McGee, and that Roger McGee and I are connected on Facebook, and certainly acquaintances. Maybe even after today, we might even be friends. That's kind of nice, isn't it? So, you know, my point being that, that for me, a lot of times the definition of stranger is simply a friend I haven't met yet. And yeah, so my life is better today than it was earlier before Roger showed up. So I wish all of you a new Roger in your life. And I think you know what I mean by that. The building that they mentioned a couple times in the videos, that Roger mentioned as well as Robbie mentioned, is, if you can see past these palm trees and past the power poles, light poles, and data poles, aloha. That building in the distance there with sort of the orange lines around the top is Riviera. And that's where both of those gentlemen have a condo that they are living in presently. It's one of those condos, though, that they are very clear through a lot of visibility of signs that say, hey, look, this isn't a hotel, so therefore staying here for nights or even just a week, that's not allowed. And if someone is, you know, Airbnb-ing or Agoda-ing their condo property to you, effectively that's illegal. And what I believe to be true is that the person staying there is the one that basically gets in trouble and gets fined, apparently, and gets kicked out, versus the owner of the establishment, that you could argue is really the one that should be held accountable for not doing the right thing. Especially since, I mean, I've been coming to Thailand for months, for years, right? And even after only coming here for a few months, I realized that, hey, so you shouldn't be renting out your condo if your condo complex doesn't allow it. But then I quickly learned that the person that gets in trouble is the poor foreigner staying there, who, through no fault of his own, is just basically going on a platform that one could argue the world needs to be able to trust, which is Airbnb and Agoda and Booking.com and Expedia and that sort of thing. It's like, well, if you're listing a property on here, I have the expectation that it's legal for me to stay there. I have the expectation that I'm not going to be potentially fined nor thrown in jail for staying at a property that you're advertising. So on the one hand, I'm a little bit disappointed that Airbnb or Agoda don't have at least some mild level of checks and balances in there, not the least of which is having at least one employee who knows even the slightest amount of Thailand. For example, if they hired me to come in for 1 hour, I could type up a piece of paper on a Word document that says, oh, P.S. You know, if there's someone advertising a property on our platform, take all of 30 seconds and look at the address of it in Google and then determine whether you, because I can guarantee you that someone has taken a picture of one of those signs that says it's illegal to stay here for a night or a week, and they've uploaded it to Google, and therefore if you look at it on Google Maps, one of those pictures will show up, and then you can say, look, you can't advertise this item for sale or for lease or for rent like you can in another hotel. And we will therefore deny you the ability to be a host on our platform, because we're here to protect our customers. Unfortunately, they don't do those checks and balances, and so therefore it's quite frankly the equivalent of what many people bitched at about for years with Alibaba, which is, oh yeah, but they're selling counterfeit items from China. And it's not the sellers that get chastised for that, it's the people that own the platform. And so Alibaba had to come up with a very sophisticated level of technology, because you can't do it by humans every single time, that doesn't scale, but they had to come up with a very sophisticated technology that would basically scan, if you will, these items that people would put up for sale to determine whether they were authentic or not.